OTOsuite 4.65 was created with improving functionality and hearing assessment with the Astera or the Astera 2 in mind. This video will cover some of the updates and features included in this version of OTOsuite, including the Smile, Sunshine, New Speech, and Tinnitus test modalities. This icon enables the Sunshine control panel. The Sunshine panel is an alternative to the busy classical control panel in OTOsuite. Instead of having a control panel with many buttons, you now have a simplified array of icons. Simply click on the icon to cycle to the next item. You have the capability to select the test ear, stimulus transducer, turning on the masker, stimulus type, test type, and you now have shortcuts to talk forward, monitor and level controls, and user tests and special tests. If you don't wish to click on the icon to cycle to the next option, you can actually right-click on the icon, which grants you quicker access to other options. Right-clicking also enables for customization. For example, if I'd like to have the test ear as an individual button, I would simply select that as an option. Another example is if I typically use high-frequency headphones but not phone. If we go down to add and remove buttons, I can actually include or exclude whichever transducer I choose to. There is no need to save these adjustments. Simply make the desired changes, and they will appear the next time you open OTOsuite. OTOsuite 4.65 has considerably opened the two-channel capability of the audiometer. As a consequence, there are many options in terms of what appears on your display and control of the stimulation from the audiometer. This icon opens the Smile test modality and allows for flexibility of how the examiner views test data in OTOsuite as well as control of the ACP. You can now assign graphs as well as control of the ACP with respect to the orientation of the patient inside the booth. Select this setting if the patient will be facing you. You will note that the right ear is displayed on the left side of the screen and the left ear is on the right side of the screen. If the patient's back is toward you, select the other option and the graphs will flip-flop. This test modality will dedicate a channel to a specific ear and is actually tied to this function. You will note as I switch between each patient orientation, the control of the ACP will also flip-flop. These two options allow you to dedicate the stimulus to a particular channel. This setting dedicates the stimulus to the left channel and the masking noise to the right. Vice versa for this setting. This will dedicate the stimulus to the right channel and masking to the left. This is a nice option to have for the left-handed examiner. There is no need to save these settings as they will automatically carry over to the next session of OTOsuite. The unaided and aided speech tabs have merged into a single speech tab in OTOsuite 4.65. You will note that the traditional speech table has also been replaced. The new table is preset with commonly performed speech tests. To perform the desired test, simply click on the arrow button. You will note that in this example, the routing of the transducer changes. You can also assign specific transducers as well as word lists to individual tests. This eliminates the need to manually select multiple settings to perform a speech test. Speech files can be assigned to the test type. Spondy word list form A may be the default word list for all speech tests on your system. To assign a different word list to word recognition score, for example, simply click on the appropriate arrow. Change the word list from the drop-down menu. In this example, we'll move it to NU6 list B. Right-click on the arrow and select Assign Selected Stimulus. Be sure to do the same for the contra ear. Note, when I click the left ear, the word list will change to the default, which is Spondy. We'll change this to NU6 list 1B as well. Right-click on the arrow, Assign Selected Stimulus. Now you will note when I navigate back to SRT, it reverts back to Spondy word list, and when I click on WRS, it'll change to NU6 list 1B. The test order in the table can also be changed. Simply right-click anywhere on the row of the test you choose to move. For example, I'd like to move WRS closer to SRT. I will right-click in the appropriate row, in this case the right ear, mouse over to Pinned Test, and select Move Up. You will see it moves higher up in the list. We can do the same for the left ear. You also have the capability to remove some tests that you may not perform regularly. For example, if you choose not to include UCL in the table, simply right-click anywhere in the row, mouse over to Pin Tests, and deselect Pin Test, and you will see that it is removed from the list. To perform a test, simply click on the arrow button next to the desired test. Then hit the play button in the player control box. The stimulus is then presented. How the subsequent word in the list is presented depends on your playback settings. We have included an icon for scoring and playing options in the toolbar. I currently have my system set up to perform play on count, which means after I've scored the word as correct or incorrect, it'll move on to the next word in the list automatically. If you choose to perform timeout play on count, the system will automatically score the word as correct or incorrect after a given amount of time. Continuous playback is as though you were playing the word list from a CD. To score the word, I can use the same technique as previous version of OTOsuite by clicking on the plus or minus key in the controller, the correct or incorrect buttons on the ACP, or the plus or minus keys on the keyboard. A new method of scoring in OTOsuite 4.65 is by clicking on the test word in the table. When I click, it will score the word as correct and proceed to the next word. A single click scores the word as correct. A double click will score it as incorrect. You also have the option of clicking on the word in the list after it has been presented. One click scores as correct, a second scores as incorrect, and a third means the word has been omitted. Right-clicking on the word allows you to change the score, start the playlist from that word, or play that individual words. This means you can now bounce around to different words on the list instead of going in order. Simply right-click on the word and select Play Item. You can score data like previous versions of OTOsuite by clicking Store in OTOsuite, pushing the Store button on the ACP, or the S key on your keyboard. A new option is to click in the box under DB in the table. This will automatically populate the data for that test. Right-clicking in the row will allow for inserting a no response, did not test, could not test, as well as manually entering data. If you typically place straight through 25 words of a list and proceed to the opposite ear with the next word in that list, as I've done here, you can see I've scored 25 words in the right ear. To proceed with testing in the left ear, I simply click on the left ear, right-click on the next word in the list, select Play from here, and proceed scoring. I'd like to note that you are not limited to only one test per ear. For example, if you'd like to perform word recognition scores at different intensities or using a different word list than what is pinned to the table, simply select the appropriate settings and proceed with testing, and a new row will appear in the table. Let's say, for example, I want to test the left ear at a different intensity. I'll simply record the score that I have now, change the intensity, find the next word on the list, and proceed from there. You will note that on the table, a new row has populated. Left ear, word recognition score. Once the testing is complete, simply click on the box to pull in that score. A dedicated tinnitus test tab is included in OTOsuite 4.65. This allows the examiner to perform audiologic and tinnitus evaluations via an integrated test modality. After you have performed an audiogram, it carries over to the tinnitus test module. On the left-hand side, where the control panel is, you have channel settings to choose from. You have your choice of several signals, including tone, warble, fresh noise, narrowband noise, and white noise. You have several transducers to choose from, inserts, headphones, and high frequencies, as well as routing options, left, right, and binaural. Test options allows for precise testing. You can adjust your dB steps from 1, 2 to 5 dB, as well as hertz steps. You can choose to use a narrower portion of an octave frequency, all the way down to a single hertz frequency. You can perform pitch matching, loudness matching, hearing threshold testing, masking noise thresholds, minimum masking level testing, describe the maskability, residual inhibition, and a description of the inhibition. You also have the capability to type in notes. Another feature is the ability to use an integrated questionnaire. You have the option of performing the Tinnitus and Hearing Survey, or THS, the Tinnitus Functional Index, or TFI, as well as the Tinnitus Handicap Inventory, or THI, in multiple languages. These tests integrate with the software. You can score the exam or the survey in the computer. And the results tied with the date will populate at the bottom of the screen. I'd like to note that this module is tied to a specific date and a specific audiogram, so you have the capability to monitor the patient's tinnitus over time. The routing of the signal is not tied to this table, which makes sense since when performing many of these tests, we have the patient listen to the signal in the ear opposite to their tinnitus. For example, in this ear, or for this patient, the signal is being routed to the left ear, but we would record results in the right ear. To record results, simply click in the box. After you've obtained the pitch and loudness matching, you will notice a T symbol pop up on the audiogram. That is where the tinnitus is located on the audio. A feature that we've included is the octave confusion test. Once the examiner suspects they've identified the tinnitus, simply click on the +1 button and the examiner can present the octave of the suspected tinnitus pitch. This is a handy tool since it eliminates the math in figuring what the octave is. As you perform the rest of the test, simply click in the box as needed. And all of your data will populate. Right-clicking inside the box will actually give you more data as to the measurement condition. For example, the type of signal, intensity level, frequency, and routing. You can also delete a measurement by right-clicking. Once minimum masking level has been performed, you have the capability to describe the maskability of the tinnitus. You can select complete, partial, none, exacerbation, delete, or cancel. To perform the residual inhibition test, after the examiner has determined the correct intensity for the stimulus, simply click the play button. You will note that the timer begins and the masking stimulus is automatically presented. Countdown begins, and we see that the signal is being presented. As we near the end of the countdown, you will note that the play button, which has been grayed out, will actually change. And the countdown has stopped from noise to inhibition. When the patient responds after the tinnitus is returned, clicking this button will enter the value in the table. We see that the residual inhibition for this imaginary patient in the left ear would have been 21 seconds. Again, if you right-click inside that box, it gives you more information about the measurement condition. In addition, you also have the capability to characterize the inhibition characteristic, as well as delete those test results. As I mentioned before, the tinnitus test is tied to a specific audiogram. If you've performed a test on a previous date or time, simply click on the date and time, and you'll have access to previous tests. And you can actually track changes over time of the patient's tinnitus.